Canada is pricing out its own middle class, and Mexico, the real Mexico, not the resort Mexico, is the backup plan that's becoming the primary plan. So, my northern friends, let's investigate why I think you should join me in Mexico. 2 million Canadians visited Mexico in the first 10 months of last year, 2025. That's not tourism, that's reconnaissance. And while everyone is still arguing about Florida, the prices, the politics, the insurance, a very specific group of Canadians has already moved on, quietly, strategically, and they're not just retirees. They're remote workers, young families, people in their 30s and 40s who ran the numbers and realized something the snowbird generation never had to face. Now, today I'm going to show you exactly why this is happening, who's doing it, and 5 things you need to understand before you even think about making this move. And I'll be honest, one of these is going to surprise you because nobody's talking about it yet. Now, here's why this matters right now. Canadian travel to the United States dropped 27% in January alone. At the same time, Toronto to Cancun became the #1 international route out of Pearson Airport. Not New York, not Los Angeles, Cancun. Montreal to Cancun surged 24%. Air Canada has added 18% more capacity on Mexican routes for summer of 2026. And here's one thing that most people missed. There's a brand new direct flight from Montreal to Guadalajara launching in June of 2026. This isn't a blip, this is a pattern. And the people who understand it first are going to have a massive advantage over the people who figure it out in 2 years when everyone else is competing for the same apartments and the same visa slots. Let's start first with the thing that's keeping every Canadian up at night: how much it costs to exist. A one-bedroom apartment in Toronto right now averages $2,400 Canadian. In Vancouver, you're looking at 2,600 Canadian. That's not downtown penthouses overlooking the Sky Dome or the GM Center. This is just a normal apartment. Now, in Guadalajara, where I live, Mexico's second largest city, a modern one-bedroom apartment in a good neighborhood like Providencia or Americana, Chapultepec, runs about 1,100 Canadian. Not pesos, Canadian dollars. Now, before you say, well, yeah, but what about the quality? Let me stop you. We've got fiber internet, rooftop pools, security, walkable neighborhoods, and actual infrastructure. These aren't compromises. In many cases for Canadians, you'll actually be upgrading. The overall cost of living in Mexico runs easily 50% lower than major Canadian citizens, or more, depending on how you like to live. Groceries at local markets, eating out 3 to 4 times a week, transportation, it all adds up to a life where your money is actually working for you instead of just evaporating into your rent. And here's what I want you to sit with. This is not about a reduction in quality of life. This is about a multiplication of options. The money you save isn't gone. It goes into your savings, your investment, travel, your kids' future, whatever you want. That's what this is really about. Now, laws and economies worldwide are changing faster than ever. So, whether you're serious or curious about moving internationally, subscribe now. I make new videos every week to keep our community informed and equipped with the latest information. Now, second on our list is the one thing that Canadians don't particularly like to hear because free healthcare is a cornerstone of Canadian cultural achievement. So bear with me. I'm not here to hate. Let's talk about what free actually looks like in 2026. We've got hours-long emergency room waits, 8 to 14 months to see a specialist, traveling to the USA for urgent screening needs, paying out of pocket there for specialists. Provinces where the family doctor shortage is so bad that walk-in clinics are the primary care system. Tens of thousands of Canadians know this. They've lived this. Now, consider those same needs in Mexico. A general practitioner visit with no insurance, a walk-in the same day, runs $25 to $38 Canadian. A specialist consultation, $50 to $75 Canadian. These aren't back alley clinics. These doctors train in the United States and Europe. The facilities in Guadalajara, Merida, and Puerto Vallarta, they're world class, and they're the doctors that I use myself as a permanent resident of Mexico. Full private health insurance in Mexico, with comprehensive coverage, private hospitals, the whole package runs about $200 Canadian a month. For a healthy person in their 30s or 40s, it could be even less. If you obtain a permanent residency, much of your healthcare in Mexico becomes free, just like in Canada. It takes some time, but I'll show you how later. I'm not saying the Canadian system is bad. I applaud Canada for building the structure to care for its citizens. I'm saying that the gap between what you're paying in taxes and what you're actually receiving is wider than it's ever been without a plan to correct it. And for the cost of a monthly streaming subscription, in Mexico, you can see a doctor the same day you call with your need. This isn't a political statement. That's just the math. Now, third, Mexico makes it extremely easy for Canadians to travel to Mexico and to apply for temporary and permanent residency statuses. This is where most people get overwhelmed and quit. So let me simplify it for you. As a Canadian, you can enter Mexico visa-free and stay 180 days. That's 6 months, no paperwork, no approval, no questions. You land, they stamp your passport, you're in. That alone is enough for a lot of people to test the waters. But if you want to do this properly, and I would recommend that you try it this way, you're looking at getting at least a temporary residency. Now, there was a big change in July 2025 that actually worked in your favor. Mexico switched its income thresholds to something called the UMA system. Without getting too deep into it here, the UMA goes up about 3 to 5% a year, which is way more predictable than the old system that was tied to the minimum wage and jumping 12, 13% annually, depending on inflation and a couple of other factors. Now, right now, for temporary residency through economic solvency, you're looking at roughly $6,000 Canadian per month in provable income, or about $98,000 in savings Canadian. And here's the part that most people miss. That's a one-time verification. You prove it once, you're not proving it every year. One thing I'll flag, these thresholds do change, and they vary slightly by consulate. Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, they all have slightly different processing realities. Mexico updates its immigration rules annually. Now, our fourth item. This is the one I said would surprise you. And I need to be clear up front, I'm not your tax advisor. What I'm about to walk you through is general information, not advice for your specific situation. Make sure you talk to a cross-border tax professional before you make any tax moves. Now, that said, I want to make sure you understand how this works. If you're a Canadian remote worker earning $100,000 a year in Ontario, your combined federal and provincial marginal tax rate is over 33%. Depending on your bracket, it could even go higher. Now, if you properly sever your Canadian tax residency, and that word properly is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and establish tax residency in Mexico, the picture changes dramatically. Mexico's personal income tax is progressive, starting at just under 2%, going up to 35% at the top, but the brackets are structured differently. And Canada and Mexico have a tax treaty that prevents double taxation. The key mechanism is the 183-day rule. Spend more than 183 days in Mexico and you're generally considered a Mexican tax resident. Spend fewer than that in Canada and you're on the path to severing the CRA residency. But it's not just about counting days. The CRA looks at your significant ties, your home, your spouse's location, your bank accounts, your driver's license, your health card. For that $100,000 remote worker who is doing this correctly, severing ties properly and establishing Mexican residency, filing in the right jurisdiction, the tax savings can be substantial. We're talking potentially tens of thousands of dollars per year. Combine that with a 50% lower cost of living, the math gets very compelling very fast. But I can't stress this enough. Get professional help. A bad tax move doesn't just cost you money. The CRA doesn't forget, and a botched residency severance can follow you for years. Do it right and keep more of what's yours. Now, all right, so now you're on board with the concept. Now, the question everybody asks is, where? I'm going to give you 3 cities, not 10, not 25, 3. Because these are the 3 that make the most sense specifically for remote workers and young families, as well as retirees, not backpackers, people like you. City number 1, Guadalajara, Mexico's Silicon Valley. It's the second largest city in the country. They have fiber optic internet across the city, massive co-working spaces, a startup ecosystem that's attracting international talent. But here's the thing that separates Guadalajara for Canadian families, and that is the Canadian school. This is an Alberta-accredited private school system with 4 campuses all across Mexico, preschool through high school. 75% English instruction, 25% Spanish. Your kids graduate with a dual diploma, Alberta and Mexico, meaning that they can apply to Canadian universities with a Canadian transcript. It's an Apple distinguished school. This isn't some expat afterthought. This is a legitimate world-class institution. For families, that's the killer app. Your kids don't fall behind, they get ahead. Bilingual, maybe even trilingual, bicultural, and a credential that works everywhere. And there's a new direct Montreal to Guadalajara flight launching in the summer of this year. The infrastructure is being built for you in real time. City number 2, Merida. If safety is your number 1 concern, and for a lot of families it certainly is, Merida is your city. It consistently ranks in the top 5 safest cities in North America. Not just Mexico, all of North America, including Canada. It's a colonial city in the Yucatan with gorgeous architecture, an incredible food scene, and it's actually the most affordable of the 3. A family can live well there for dramatically less than the other 2. Internet infrastructure has caught up. You're looking at 100 megabit or more internet when working from home with Starlink available. And of course, for the beach people, Progreso and the Gulf Coast are only 30 minutes away. The digital nomad community in Merida as well has exploded over the last 2 years. It's quieter and more intentional and less party-oriented than the other Caribbean coasts. If you want substance over the scene, that's your spot. City number 3, Puerto Vallarta, 60 plus years as an expat destination, and it has the largest established Canadian community on Mexico's Pacific coast, as well as direct flights from Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and Montreal. Puerto Vallarta gives you the beach lifestyle without sacrificing infrastructure. Good hospitals, reliable internet, diverse neighborhoods at every price point, from the walkable Zona Romantica to family-oriented marina areas to more affordable spots up the coast in places like Bucerias and Sayurita. And for anyone working remotely with clients on the west coast of Canada, Puerto Vallarta is in the same time zone as Vancouver. You're not adjusting your schedule, you're just adjusting your view. A quick note on buying property. As a foreigner, you can't directly own real estate within 50 kilometers of the coast or 100 kilometers of a border, but there's a legal structure called the Fideicomiso, a bank trust that lets you hold property through a Mexican bank with full ownership rights. It's been used for decades and it's completely standardized. I break down the full Fideicomiso process, cost, and what to watch out for in the Canada to Mexico Relocation Guide, as well as historical data trends on the amazing appreciation of real estate in Mexico and projections for the future. The link is in the description. But just know, owning property in Mexico as a Canadian is absolutely doable. It's not the obstacle that people think it is. Now, look, I know, this is a lot. 5 pillars, 3 cities, tax implications, residency thresholds. It's a big move and it deserves big thinking. That's why I put together the Canada to Mexico Relocation Guide. It's a step-by-step PDF that covers everything I talked about today and a lot that we didn't have time for. The full visa application process, consulate by consulate requirements, the Fideicomiso breakdown, a cost of living calculator, a pre-move checklist so you don't miss anything. I have included all of my knowledge from my personal experience as well as hundreds of clients I've helped start new lives in Mexico. It's a document I wish existed when I moved. The link is in the description. And if your situation is complex, if you've got business ties, multiple properties, a spouse who isn't sure yet, start with a guide. It'll answer 80% of your questions before you ever need to talk to anyone, and you can always email me your questions after that. This is a big move to make, but it's solvable. And honestly, the Canadians who are already doing this will all tell you the same thing. They wish they'd done it sooner. Remember, the right information makes it all possible. I'm Brad with Evolution Expats. I'll see you in our next video.